He wasn't supposed to cry, not here, not in front of the big red gate. But the toy didn't care about timing. It slipped right through his fingers and rolled across the cobblestones like it had a mission of its own. And now there it was, sitting just inches away from a man who wasn't allowed to move, a royal guard. The little boy froze, his hands still midair as if trying to stop time. His mother called softly behind him, trying to reassure him, but her voice was muffled by the pounding in his ears. This wasn't just a toy, it was the toy, the one his father had given him the night before his last deployment. A small, fabric soldier with a stitched red coat. Its button eyes always looked brave, even when the boy didn't feel it. And now it was sitting at the foot of a man who looked like a real-life version of that very toy, still, stern, and towering. Tourists nearby began to whisper, "Is he going to grab it?" "No way, the guards aren't allowed to move, right? Poor kid." The boy shuffled forward, uncertain. His hands trembled, and the tip of his shoe brushed the edge of the black line painted on the stone. He stopped. He remembered the signs. "Do not approach the guard." His lip quivered. His hands curled into tiny fists. For a second, it looked like he might burst into tears again. And that's when it happened. The guard blinked, once. Then he moved his left boot back only slightly and spoke, deep, controlled, but not cold. "Step back, young man." The boy's shoulders sagged. The tourists gasped, unsure what they were witnessing. And then the unthinkable. The guard lowered his rifle slowly, deliberately. He bent at the waist, his tall figure folding with rigid grace. With his gloved hand, he reached down, picked up the toy soldier, and held it out with the care of someone handling something sacred. "He looks like a brave little fellow," the guard said, handing it over. The boy's face lit up. His tiny fingers grasped the toy as if it were a miracle. And then he did something that shattered everyone's expectations. He stepped forward and hugged the guard's leg. The crowd froze. The guard didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't scold. He simply looked down, and beneath the brim of his bearskin hat, a soft smile formed. "Your father must be proud," he said, almost like a whisper only the boy could hear. Tears welled up in the mother's eyes. A stranger in the crowd began to applaud quietly, and soon others followed. Phones were lifted, cameras rolled. But what they captured wasn't just a rule being broken, it was a boundary being crossed. With compassion, maybe it was just a toy, maybe it was just a hug, but sometimes the smallest gestures leave the biggest marks. And on that quiet London morning, one guard reminded the world, honor isn't just about standing still, it's about knowing when to move. The boy couldn't have been more than 4. He was gripping the hand of his mother as they strolled past the gates of Buckingham Palace, his tiny boots squeaking with every other step. In his other hand, clutched like treasure, was a small, worn-out plush lion. Its fur was patchy, one eye missing, and its mane matted with years of love. It was the kind of toy that doesn't leave a child's side, no matter the journey. They paused near the guard line, tourists keeping a respectful distance, phones in the air, waiting for a blink or a flinch. The Queen's guard stood like a statue, red tunic pristine, black bearskin hat casting a shadow over his stoic face, bayonet gleaming under the soft morning sun. Then it happened. The boy loosened his grip, just slightly. The lion tumbled from his hand, bounced once on the cobblestone, and rolled straight toward the guard's feet. Gasps spread through the crowd like a ripple. A murmur, a quiet panic in the boy's eyes. The child stepped forward instinctively. His mother held him back gently, whispering, "No, sweetheart, you can't cross the line." The boy looked up at her, confused, scared, and on the verge of tears. That lion was his everything. And in that moment, everyone watching expected nothing. They expected the guard to stand still, silent, unmoved. But the unexpected is what makes some stories unforgettable. The guard's eyes flicked downward, barely perceptible. His fingers twitched, and then he moved. With a single fluid motion, he took a deliberate step forward, bent down, and gently picked up the toy. He held it in both hands as if it were made of glass. Then he did something no one could have predicted. He knelt, lowering himself to the level of the boy. He reached across the invisible barrier and offered the lion with both hands. His face remained composed, but there was a softness to his gaze, now an unspoken warmth. The little boy took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," he whispered. The guard gave the smallest nod, then rose with military grace, stepping back into his position, the line of duty restored. The crowd was silent, moved. Someone began to clap, then another. And soon, the applause grew not raucous, but reverent. It wasn't just appreciation, it was recognition. Someone caught the moment on camera. By noon, it had circled the internet. By nightfall, the world had watched a Queen's Guard kneel, not for show, not for orders, but for kindness. In the comments, people wrote things like, "He broke the rules for the right reasons." Not all heroes wear capes, some wear bearskin hats. This is what honor really looks like, and they weren't wrong. Because sometimes, it's not the grand gestures that define a man's character, it's the quiet ones. The kind that remind a frightened child that their favorite lion isn't lost. That someone will cross a line when it matters most. And maybe that little boy won't remember the gates, the crowd, or even the uniform. But he'll always remember that moment when the world seemed too big. And one man, who wasn't supposed to move, did.